Hey, I'm Charyn Harris, and welcome to my channel. I'm a musician, a professor of music industry studies, and the host of the Charyn Harris Experience on SiriusXM Studio 54 Radio. I am obsessed with the backstories of people who move the needle in music, lifestyle, and culture. Tune in, and I guarantee you're going to be obsessed too. Oh, and before we do, make sure you're following me on socials and subscribing to my channel. Okay, now let's get into it. Today's such a lovely day, and we started off with Love Scene by Barry White. Today I have Miss Daryl Richardson in the studio with me. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Charyn, how are you?
I'm awesome. So now for those of you who don't know, Daryl and I worked together on the Barry White tour. It was the Practice What You Preach tour. That was 1995. I think we started when people were like, oh, he's got girls in champagne glasses. And that's literally what it was. It was he had dancers in champagne glasses on lounges. We had custom silk pajamas and custom shoes, and it was just a very luxurious tour.
Absolutely, to say the least.
Yes. Well, welcome, Daryl. I'm excited that you're here because we get to share a really important part of history. Now, Barry was having his comeback. Practice What You Preach was a huge comeback for him.
It was. Yes, it was. Because he had been off the scene for quite some time. And so
right.
He's coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was that the one? I think he also received maybe a Grammy for that album, if I'm not mistaken. But I know that there was a lot of buzz, and Secret Garden was a song that we performed.
Love that song.
Oh my gosh. There were so many great songs, and the band and the orchestra. And you know what? I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let you jump in, and you can tell us how it all started for you, some of your influences, and whatever you want to say. And let's just go for it, because this is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. I want to say first and foremost, Barry White is a legend, and he was a living legend when he was here. His music was the epitome of just excellence. And when I got that tour, first of all, he had never had dancers. That was number one that I knew of. For me following Barry White, I don't recall him ever having dancers on stage.
I think you're right about that.
He had always had backup singers, orchestra, but I never saw dancers. And so this was also something new, him coming back and having 4 girls dancing behind him. But like, as you said, the silk pajamas, the luxury shoes. I mean, I felt like I was, in royalty there on stage every night. And I auditioned for that show. And I was actually expecting at the time.
Wait, when you auditioned, you were expecting?
I was 4 months pregnant, yes. However, you couldn't tell because I was small and my stomach wasn't showing. And I remember auditioning for that tour, and Adam Shankman was the choreographer, who was the son of Barry's manager.
Yeah, Ned Shankman.
Ned Shankman, yes. And I went to the audition, and I had talked to my doctor and everything. I said, there's an audition that I want to go to, and I really think that I can do this. And he said, well, you're in great shape as long as it's nothing strenuous. And so I went to the audition to kind of check it out, right? And as they was doing the movement, I said, I could do this, because it was really very pulled up. It was very girly. It wasn't anything like hip hop and jumping and strenuous. It was all about tipping and looking very beautiful. And so I said, I could do this. And long story short, I got the job. And they hired 4 of us, and the girls that I knew were friends of mine. So I said to them, when we go in for that costume fitting, you guys, we have to make sure that we get costumes that are flowing. Nothing body fitting, because I'm 4 months pregnant. And they were like, what? And so they agreed, and we had this pact. So when we went in for the costume fitting, the dresser there, and she was the costume designer, she was like, well, you guys should wear like this crop top and have your stomachs out. And we were all like, no. Barry's so classy. We want to be classy.
That was Dana who was doing.
Yes, Dana. Oh my God.
I remember because it was you, Tammy, Donna, and Robin.
And Robin, yes. Robin Tasha Ford, Donna Perkins. I can't remember Tammy's last name. I've been trying to find her on social media. I cannot remember her last name.
I can't remember. but
But
it'll pop up.
we were a pact, and they had my back. Can I tell you? They had my back, and so that's how it started. Kona, my dog is over here barking. Forgive me. And so that's how it started. And we were on tour for I think 4 months, because it was in my 8th month that it was started to show a little bit, right? And Barry's daughter was in the audience, and she came backstage and said, "One of the dancers is knocked up." And that's when everything hit the fan. And Barry and Mr. Shankman called me after the show and had a meeting, and they just had me sign a disclosure, because I really reassured them. I said, I would have never taken this job if I thought it was going to be detrimental to me and my child.
Your child, of course.
And the only reason why I didn't tell you guys is because I really needed the job. Like, I was really being honest. And they were so cool. They just had me sign a disclosure. And the next thing, it was a freeing for me now to be on stage, you know, twirling and the chiffon rising up and not caring that you see my stomach, and going backstage, coming up out of the theater. People were like, "Oh, that's the girl. That's the woman who's pregnant. Can I have your autograph?" It was hilarious. It became this whole positive thing that I was trying to hide in the beginning. And so that was my experience. And I had the best time on tour. And I love that he had a female band behind him, because you guys were fierce.
Oh, thank you.
And I had never worked with an all-female band, because I've toured with Babyface, I've toured with Earth, Wind & Fire, and I've never seen an all-female band. And so that was so enlightening for me, and just so powerful to see you guys. And y'all were just so fire. It was amazing.
Yeah, we, thank you. That, it was very unusual, because there weren't a lot of female musicians that we knew of. We knew of the band Climax, and there was a sprinkling of female musicians in Los Angeles at that time. And I had just moved to Los Angeles. Okay. So when we had the audition, there were some drummers. I met some drummers, some guitarists. There were maybe a couple of other keyboard players. There was a girl that ended up playing with Dr. Dre a lot.
Okay.
Then there were the girls that played with Prince, Rosie and Bonnie, that I met them later. There were a couple, some keyboard players from the Bay Area, but I don't think that they were part of that audition.
Right.
And it was mostly because it was actually just the guitarist, Darlene, the drummer, Andrea,
yes,
and myself on keys, and Milena on percussion, and then Barry's son on percussion. And then there were three female background singers. Vincent was on bass, and Terrence was on guitar, and Jack, who was the MD. So it was like an 11-piece rhythm section, and background singers. Well, 8-piece rhythm section with the 3 background singers makes 11, and then the orchestra.
So there was massive.
There was a lot of estrogen.
Yes.
And we did really well, I have to say. I can't say that there was a lot of, us being emotional or anything like that. But one really funny moment sticks out is when we stopped at a truck stop. Do you remember that night?
I don't know. Remind me.
We had movies on our bus, and we stopped at a truck stop, and I want to say it was maybe Robin rented movies to Barry for his bus. Like, I was like, are you...
funny.
You're not just lending it, and it was a VHS.
That's so funny.
You're not just lending him the VHS. You're actually making him pay. You're rent.
Business minded. That's a business.
Like we were Blockbuster on the road.
I love it.
Yeah, that was the thing. He treated us like royalty, and it was in our contract to have 4- and 5-star hotels. Exactly. So the hotels were fabulous.
Yes, they were.
Some of my favorite shows were the Greek Theater. I remember looking out in the audience and seeing Denzel Washington. Like, I was like, oh my God, he's right. He was like maybe in the 4th or 5th row. All these stars would show up
because they adored him. He had such a name. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And, of course, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, because I think that he was working with them. So they showed up in Chicago, I remember, and it was just such an amazing time. Right. And to see that much love and adoration, and to know that he was getting his flowers right then and there.
Yes, that was just fabulous to me.
Yeah. But, I mean, because, eventually we knew that you were expecting, and we weren't saying anything. We had your back. We had your back.
Yes.
We had your back. And, and it was like, wow, you were doing so much. And I also thought it was very inspiring, the way that you carried yourself. I don't know that, sometimes now I'm seeing more dancers and rappers. And of course, we saw Rihanna,
right.
on Super Bowl with that belly, which was
amazing. It was so amazing.
But to be able to normalize being able to get out and do things and understand the strength of a woman in these instances, and what we have to endure and what our bodies have got to endure, because pregnancy is not easy.
No, it's not. It's not. But I'm telling you, that tour made it very easy, because I don't think I would have had that experience on another tour, and I probably wouldn't have taken another tour. So the timing of that, everything was so amazing how it just panned out.
I can't remember if you were there, because I know that you're in one of the pictures.
We went out to dinner. I remember he took us out to dinner.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, he took us to San Francisco. We went out for dinner in San Francisco. I remember that it's so funny how some memories really come back.
I know. And he was at the table with us, and we just had a fabulous time of fellowship, talking and laughing with him. And that's what I just loved about him. He was very engaging, and he was approachable. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. And I always loved, he would call me Precious. I mean, he probably called us all Precious, but I just used to love that. I was like, oh my gosh, because he was like, he was like that big uncle to me.
Yes. Endearing. He really was so endearing.
Yes. And it really also validated for me our place as women in the music industry, that we could be in here and we could coexist in a very, patriarchal industry.
Absolutely.
Where sometimes we weren't treated very fairly.
This is true.
Sometimes it was like, oh yeah, they can do the job, but we don't necessarily want them to do the job, because that means, things like, they're going to have to get their own room, and, the guys aren't going to have to, so there were some of these dynamics where it would come down to economics sometimes, but he just loved women. He adored women. I know he adored his mom. He had lots of girls, lots of daughters. Right, he did. Yes, he did. And I loved watching his family work together. Right, because he had his son on the road with us, I remember. Yes, his son. Yeah, Kevin was out on the road. Kevin's friend Randy. Yes. They were working for him, and the daughters would, one was out on the road, one or two were out on the road with us pretty regularly, I believe. I kind of remember. Yeah, but the whole management, I love that their family worked together. Thanks again for listening. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Also, follow me on SiriusXM's Studio 54 Radio. Make sure you're also following me on socials at Charyn Harris and at Charyn Harris Experience. See you soon.